there was like thousands of people at the show. And at an event, this guy came on and goes, "Who the hell are Vidiactive? You guys are everywhere." Because there was 3 of us with shirts. So okay, this does the volume. This is my favourite slide.
Do you have volume? Do you need the volume?
No.
Okay. Right.
Okay. My story starts when I went to live in Washington, D.C. I used to work for Fujitsu Services, actually, who have an office not far from here. And I went to work and lived there. And the division that I was working for got acquired by a VC-backed firm. This was in the mid-90s. And this was just brilliant, absolutely brilliant. I was young, I was single, there were lots of parties. Monica Lewinsky was at one of them. It was just blindingly brilliant. I was going to put Monica Lewinsky's face here, but I didn't. And I spent 3 years in DC. This was kind of at the beginning of the tech bubble. Then I moved to San Francisco, and I lived in San Francisco for 3 years. And the company that acquired our division got acquired by another company, and I was a paper millionaire, and it was just brilliant. And people look back on this now and say, "Oh, we saw it coming, it was a bubble and a bubble." It was ball bouncing and great fun. But we learned an awful lot about how to lose money as well. If anyone knows what this is? Put their hand up. This is the NASDAQ over like 10 or 15 years. And so all the cash we made when we did VC-backed firms, and I did 3 or 4 companies in San Francisco, a lot of messaging software, a lot of enterprise sales, and then I went to be VP of sales at a company called MindFabric, who did natural language search. Our best deal there was suing Ash Jeeves for the patent for $5 million. That's probably confidential. So all this money came here, and then I did a couple of companies on the other side of this peak as well. And of course all that money just evaporated. And, you know, my dad always said it's just paper money, so I don't believe in it. And after 6 years I came home, and my first job home was in Blackburn. I couldn't find a picture of the Blackburn skyline, but the contrast between the Blackburn skyline and that view was pretty harsh. And I was back for a while, and then I ended up founding a company called Next Device with 2 other guys. And I don't have a logo for Next Device anymore, unfortunately. This was like 2004, 5, 6. Then we sort of sat in our pants and did that on our own bootstraps. And then the world's greatest VC came in and backed us, EV, Enterprise Ventures. And then we sold that company after about 18 months after that to a company called Mental Graphics. They're a big American company. And then I spent 2.5 years flying to America and flying to China and Taiwan, and again doing a lot of embedded software stuff. Until I just couldn't take it anymore, and I ended up, it says headhunted by EV. That's not really quite how it works.
No, but it's exciting, isn't it, when you say
But I was invited by EV to look at this company called Vidiactive, and I ended up becoming the CEO. Okay. If you go there, you'll see a very tentative consumer version of what we do. Essentially, we allow you to find all the web video you like. You can create your own channels, create your own playlists, share it around, and you do all that from your laptop or your smartphone or your tablet, but you also get to synchronize that to your TV and get to watch anything on your laptop on your TV in full screen glory with a simple remote control. We are revenue generating, and we are going to trial next month with 2 of the world's biggest telcos in the States. It's the nuts. It's really cool. But any feedback on this, I'd be really appreciative of. Okay. So, who's got VC money? Who's looking for VC money? The thing about Techcelerate is that everyone's scared to death of VCs and seems to sort of think it's a journey to hell. But it doesn't have to be. And I was also kind of billed here as like, this is how you launch products with VC money. And maybe 5 years ago, you used to like, I've got an idea, here's a bag of cash. Okay, okay, now what do I do with it? It just doesn't work like that anymore. It's true that Vidiactive kind of was funded when I came into it, but as a real exception. Right now, you've got to have launched and you've got to have done something, you've got to get traction to get money. And you've got to do all the things which the guys have talked about before me. So there's nothing really different. The differences come when you actually get to a product and you start to try and launch it. So, what do you get? What you get is some increased capacity for what I'd call a market intersection. This is particularly true of kind of business-to-business sales. So certain dynamics are forcing a market in one direction. You think you've got a product which fits that, you've built it, and you're kind of waiting for the market to come to you. It gives you a little bit more time maybe to have that. It gives you the capability to hire really deep technical experts. Again, if you're doing non-pure web-based businesses, if you need to build a client for a set-top box, if you need to do embedded programming for mobile phones, most of these guys and girls have more experience, which means they're a bit older, which means they've got more money and they've got bills and they've got, you've got to pay them. You can't give them noodle wages because they won't come for that. When you do think you've got it right, you can scale it harder, faster, and better. No doubt about that. And VCs do have, I don't know if anyone can see that, but this talks about VCs having lots of good networks of people they know. And you can tap into that, and you can make real use of that. And this is what they always say when they're trying to pitch you money as well. So what the pitfalls are exactly the same. Absolutely the same. Especially this one. Especially this one. The temptation when you've got VC money in is that, well, we've got money, we'll be paid, we'll just get the product a bit more perfect, or we'll do a bit more tweaking, and don't worry, the market will come, the market will come, the market will come. And the market doesn't come. And what do? Because VCs are on this to make money. Pitfall number 2 is that you end up hiring, experienced people, but people who aren't experienced in startups. And culturally, this can be really, really difficult. You can make some big mistakes hiring the wrong people. You can go off and really push and scale something which is completely wrong. You can build something which is really great, but if you've got the money behind you, you can scale that fast. But if you don't know it's really great and you try and scale it fast, then that's a bit of a cock-off as well. Really high potential for that. If you're lucky enough to get VC money, VCs do not mean you have lots of time. They do not mean you've got loads of cash. And they do not have a badge saying, "How may I help you?" You can't wait for you can't wait for the market to come to you. You've got to go out and you've got to attack it, just like the two guys. It's absolutely no different from when you're earning money. They do not give you bottomless pit of cash for you just to kind of get on with. They give you just enough to do some things, but you've got to make it stretch. And you can't assume that there's going to be more coming in at the end of a period of time. And in my experience, they don't typically sit at board meetings bringing you up, or giving you lists of ways for them to help you out. The reason for that is that they're really, really busy. Most individuals who work for VCs I know are working on 10, 20, 30 companies, and they can't do everything. So you've got to use them wisely. So our big lesson I've learned, number 1, is you've got to have a route to revenue under your own control. Again, this is especially true if you've got any type of business-to-business company. Especially if you think you've got some kind of revenue model which relies on a channel sale. So I partner with this guy, and this guy takes it to market. If that's your revenue flow, my God, you've got to get something direct and something under your own control. It's just got to be done. Otherwise, you'll be left hanging. You'll be left hanging in this market interception nightmare. You've got to understand, when people say no, and that happens all the time, you've got to understand what the no is and why the no has happened. You might think they're saying no because, for example, they don't have the right underlying chipset to run your stuff. They're really saying no because you fundamentally threaten their customer's business model when they won't touch you with a barge pole. You've got to understand the difference between this. Again, especially in B2B, because there's a big difference between individuals you deal with and companies. Individuals can love you to death inside big companies. But the company itself won't like what you're doing. And you've got to understand the difference between the two, otherwise you end up in this place where you're burning all this VC cash, and so on, and you'll have to know a bad place. Rather depressingly, as soon as you get VC in, go and look for more money. First thing you do. You just never stop. So, if you decide to raise VC money and you get it in, you'll always be doing it. And this is really important to understand, and it means that the team's got to cope. So, most founding teams, kind of stereotype, there's maybe 2 guys or there's 3 guys and you knew each other really well, and if you rely on each other for your creativity, like you're locked in a room and that's how you code and that's how the energy gets done, that's at risk with a VC. Because what ends up happening is that one person will have to be the designated person to deal with the VC. Okay? At least 50% of their time is going to be dealt with raising money, talking to other VCs and so on and so on. And this doesn't get talked about much, but one of the most dramatic impacts is actually the loss of this kind of creative spark, because one guy's still coding away, but the other guy's now going from raising money, they're not playing off each other, does one guy trust the other to really complete the work, does the other guy trust the other guy to do the VC deal the right way, and so on and so on. You've got to be really careful about this type of stuff, and you've got to talk it through before you go after it, because this is what's going to happen. All the ones I've ever done, I've been really lucky in that I've had really strong technical, I don't have a technical bone in my body, I can't code. We've had 1 or 2 technical guys who are either creative on their own and bounce off each other, or we've got one very, very strong standalone guy who'll go off and get it done. The other key thing, which I haven't put up on the slides, is consequences of not launching fast and not launching early and not getting a customer. What ends up happening is that you run out of money. And then what? And you've already given away some of your company because of this. So you're giving away some of your company, you've run out of money, you need more money, pay these guys. What happens? Well, the VC gives you a bit more money. But it doesn't just give you it, because it takes more of your company. And so you've been out in the market longer, you start raising more money, you start to get a customer, and you start getting into this sort of spiral. So it's really, really important to get customers, users, something to demonstrate that you're moving forward, which means that you can talk to other VCs about doing another round and keeping the value high for everybody. Okay. However, in my experience, being venture-backed is great. The meetings you get by saying we're venture-backed by Preston's premier venture capital company is remarkable. EV Group now is Manchester.
I thought they are Manchester.
No, actually they're national.
Oh, right, okay.
And that's just the start, man.
Yeah.
On the whole, you can get meetings by saying, yeah, we're venture-backed. And you get conversations with the telcos we're having conversations with, and the box manufacturers and TV manufacturers we're having conversations with, because they know we're venture-backed. We wouldn't get in the door. And we certainly be able to sustain a conversation unless we were. Once you do find the fit, you can hit the afterburners and go huge. And you've got to go large, because that's your advantage. And I have another real-life story about this, which I tell because I know it, not because I'm bitter about it. I'm going to say that now. When we started Next Device, we were kind of three guys sitting in our pants for 6 months because we had no money. And there was and they did mobile user interface stuff, the iPhone type stuff before the iPhone came along. And there was another great company in Sweden called The Amazing Trine. Those crazy Scandinavians. And we were competing, and we know each other quite well actually. We were competing for the same account, for Samsung. And there's another whole presentation dealing with Samsung, which is just crazy, but anyway. They were 6 guys, maybe 8 at the time, so they got a bit of funding, and they had a bit of revenue. And we were 3 guys sitting in our pants with no funding. And Samsung, an incredibly demanding customer to deal with. What happened was TAT were able to put 2 guys on a plane and stick them in Korea for a month, full time. And we couldn't, because we were sat in our pants. It would be silly to not be in your pants in Korea, but we don't have the money, we don't have the resources, and so on and so on. Now, the rest is history. We did exit Next Device for a multi-million-dollar number. TAT exited to RIM a few months ago for that number plus 100 million. Because what happened, they got funding, they were backed, they had the ability to seize that opportunity, hit the afterburners and scale. And that was it, gone. So, if you, for some reason you want to know more about this, and there's several other presentations in there somewhere, feel free to drop me a line, that's my email. Okay?
Thank you very much, Ben.